to the president of Ukraine, which they fraudulently mischaracterized to sound absolutely horrible.
President Trump says he wants former Vice
Test
President
1, 2, 3.
and his son Hunter investigated for their business dealings overseas. Today, Hunter Biden said he will step down from his role on the board of a Chinese firm. We have Fox Team coverage. Molly Henneberg is following the reaction from Capitol Hill. But we begin with Kevin Cork, who is live at the White House. Kevin.
Now the White House bracing for another week of impeachment talk, even as there is great frustration here about the fairness of the inquiry, if you want to call it that, at this particular stage, in particular not just for the president, but also for his party. In fact, the president is on Twitter talking about it tonight. Let me share a tweet that we just found in the last hour or so. The Democrats are going to lose a lot of House seats because of their fraudulent use of impeachment. Schiff, that would be California Congressman Adam Schiff, fabricated phone call, a crime. Democrat Senate seats will also be put at risk if Congress is supposedly safe. Look at Louisiana last night, North Carolina last week. President meanwhile also monitoring the situation in New York surrounding rumors of a possible investigation of his private attorney, Rudy Giuliani, which suggested his dealings with the president, including some of the heads of the country, and drawing the attention of the investigators. Still enjoys on silence of the his wife, who told Fox News last night that she was not aware of any I know nothing about him being under investigation. As somebody said, I heard him report today. I can't imagine it. He's a man known for corruption, and whatever he does, I really believe he's integrity. And I know he's an honorable man. In particular, Adam Schiff. Actually circumvented the NSC in order to conduct shadow diplomacy. When I say others, I'm talking about Rudy Giuliani. We're also going to keep an eye on a possible release of the DOJ's IG report. That could happen as soon as Friday. Of course, we'll keep an eye on it for you. But for now, back to you.
Kevin Cork at White House. Thanks, Kevin. We have a busy week. Now the Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff is saying the whistleblower at the heart of the inquiry might not testify.
Our primary interest right now is making sure that that person is protected. Indeed, now there's more than one whistleblower that they are protected. We want to make sure that we uncover the full details about the conditionality of either the military aid or that meeting with the Ukraine president. It may not be necessary to take steps that might reveal the whistleblower's identity to do that, and we're going to make sure we protect that whistleblower.
Molly Henneberg is following all of this from D.C. Molly.
Hi, John. Republicans say it's time to stop all the secrecy and let a little sunshine into this impeachment inquiry.
If Adam Schiff won't be behind closed doors, my job is to pick a lock. Mine is to open it up and say, look at what has actually been happening. Look at the lies that have been told. Look at the hearings that have been had, and nothing has came from it. And now, because you don't like the results, you take it behind closed doors.
Meanwhile, Hunter Biden, son of the former vice president, will step down by the end of this month from the board of directors of BHR, a Shanghai, China-based equity investment fund management company. That's according to a statement today from his lawyer. Moreover, if Joe Biden were to win the presidency, his son, quote, Hunter, will agree not to serve on boards of or work on behalf of foreign-owned companies. Republicans say Hunter Biden's international business deals made when his dad was VP should be investigated.
This is what people hate about the swamp. This is part of how Donald Trump won it in the first place, is saying that we're going to get rid of these sweetheart deals. We're going to make sure that we clean up the axis of power in a place like Washington, D.C., where someone like Hunter Biden get a $50,000 a month retainer for a Ukrainian energy company when everybody knows that he doesn't have that skill set.
Today, Joe Biden responded to questions about his son's business deals and suggested the president and his team are way off base.
Look, let's get something straight. First of all, no one has indicated of any consequence that anything was done wrong or illegally by me or by my son. Every major national, international, and local news operation that's looked into it has said it's a lie. This is the president's flat lie.
The former vice president said he did not consult with his son before Hunter Biden put out that statement today. Joe Biden says the statement shows that Hunter is a, quote, man of integrity. John?
Molly Hennenberg, Molly, thank you. So as tensions heat up on both sides of the political aisle, recent polling shows public support for impeachment is steadily on the increase. The Real Clear Politics average poll has 47.3% of Americans backing the impeachment and removal of President Trump. 46.9% oppose that outcome. Joining us now, Philip Boydman, White House reporter for Real Clear Politics. We'll get to the Joe Biden situation and Hunter Biden situation in a minute, Philip. But first, on this impeachment thing, why is it that the support for impeachment seems to be on the rise?
Well, I think one of the reasons why is we've seen so much news in the last couple of weeks. You talked about polling a second ago, and there was the Fox News poll that had the anger of the president, but it certainly wasn't an outlier. We saw similar results from polling from the Washington Post and the Wall Street Journal. And like you mentioned a moment ago, our average over there at Real Clear Politics shows that across the board, impeachment is up by 8.7 points. Now, of course, this could change as things continue. The most significant factor here is how Nancy Pelosi actually handles the impeachment inquiry, because there's a possibility that voters could get sick of the circus and could just say, well, let's wait for this question to be answered in the election, not in the House of Representatives.
Right, so if the public support is, well, pretty evenly split, but there is a small plurality that favors impeachment, according to the Real Clear Politics average. If that is the case, then why does Nancy Pelosi hesitate putting it to a vote of the full House?
That's the central question here. And it's one that is interesting because not only has the White House legal counsel told House Democrats they're not going to cooperate with an impeachment probe until President Trump has afforded the parliamentary courtesy which has been afforded to every other impeached president, namely that House vote. Some House Democrats who are farther left, they're pushing for a vote as well. And this is very interesting for two reasons. The first is that it will force a lot of these freshman Democrats specifically from light blue districts, to actually go on the record and say whether or not they support getting Trump out of office early. The second thing, which is very interesting, is it raises the question of what kind of rights are going to be afforded to the minority party. Is Kevin McCarthy, as minority leader, going to have subpoena power? Because if he does, that opens up a whole new impeachment inquiry go in a dozen different directions.
Yeah, Congressman Lee Zeldin was on ABC this week this morning and raised some of those concerns from the point of view of Republicans.
The president wants there to be a
Now live on your channel, Bob's Bites.
the president should have counsel present.
All kinds of shit's happening on your end.
To present evidence. There should be a
Where?
process
Where does it say that now live on your channel? Where do you see that?
Got it. Where?
One is cherry picking
Last
Up on
chance.
the right hand side
and three is just outright lying.
somewhere, and it disappeared.
Democrats want to build up, public support.
But stuff's happening on your screen.
They have their cake and eat it too right now because they aren't getting that support
Now, where it is.
of the full House.
Nothing's coming out this end.
This is offline. You put a picture, live stream offline.
Uh-huh.
If it's live, why is it on?
Let's be transparent. Even though, if you look at the transcript between President Trump and the Ukrainian president, even though there were some things in there that were a bit damning, at least he released the transcript. At least he showed what he actually said. That's the argument a lot of House and Senate Republicans are making right now, and they want to see the proceedings out in the open And that is a very persuasive argument to a lot of Americans for the last 3 years for getting very sick of a lot of this partisan cord.
Meantime, Hunter Biden announced today that he's stepping down from the board of a Chinese financial services firm. Doesn't that...
That's the question.
That all of the heat that his father has taken over some of these foreign entanglements is having an effect on the Biden campaign.
Right. The president asked where Hunter Biden was, and his lawyer seemed to answer this morning with that statement. And it is an implicit admission of the fact that Hunter Biden at this point is a bit of a political liability. Regardless of whether or not what he did was completely legal, the question remains, is this type of cronyism that he was...
Schedule next stream.
It's not something that Democratic good government voters in a primary are going to enjoy. Americans don't like seeing someone get something for nothing, and this is going to be something that could perhaps stall.
Stream help.
President Biden in a primary...
Nobody's watching.
Every time you have a question about Ukraine, every time you have a question about...
Say something.
You also have the question...
Something! Two, three, four.
Today's video involves taking this, and this, and this, and like these boxes are, like they're not empty, you know, they're full of stuff, and this, and this, and this, and putting them all in here. Yes, my friends, we are going to make a full custom gaming rig that is small enough that you could conceivably shoplift it in your hoodie. LTTstore.com. Stealth hoodie. It's awesome. Check it out. And while you're at it, check out our sponsor for today's video. The Anker PowerPort Atom Slim Wall Charger fits in your pocket and charges your devices in a snap. Learn more at the end of the video or at the link in the video description.
Just a few minutes ago, Senator Lindsey Graham said...
Let's kick this off with a look at the case that we're using to perform this feat. This is the Velicase VK3, and the whole thing is actually shockingly simple, at least on the surface. So we've got our front panel, which is just brushed aluminum with power button here, and this is all one solid piece, all the way from the back, bit here, and then down to the bottom. Okay, then we've got two side panels that are fully perforated. On the top, they've got two 80mm fan mounts. They've actually got their own fan that they made, which seems to be just sourced from some fan company. But what's special about it is that it is super slim. Then on the bottom, they've got what looks like kind of some mounting stuff. I don't know, I've never built it before, so we're going to find out what that is. And then finally at the back, that gives you an idea of the scale of the project we're looking at. That is a motherboard I/O cutout. So I have no idea how all of this stuff, including an RTX 2060, is supposed to go in here. This thing's $80 though, so hopefully they've given it some $80 worth of thought. I don't stand a chance of doing this without the manual, I'm quite certain of that.
We'll probably use the shortest handoffs.
So now that the panels are off, we're getting a look at one of the first lies that I've told you guys in this video. So that is not actually the size of a standard I/O shield, and the reason that it's bigger is because it includes multiple sizes of motherboard standoffs so that you can actually change exactly where the motherboard is mounted depending on whether you have like a larger CPU cooler or you have a thicker graphics card. So that is how we are getting a dual slot graphics card into this thing. And in fact, if you need to accommodate a longer expansion card, you see these slots here? The case can actually be extended or retracted. Well, the manual says to start by assembling your motherboard and CPU and RAM and all that good stuff. So we are using, just comes in a white box because this is an engineering sample board, but this is a ASUS's X570 ROG Strix Mini ITX motherboard, and this is a truly special little piece of kit because It's got full support for up to AMD's upcoming 16-core processor. Now, we're not going that extreme. We actually just went for a 3700X 8-core processor because that was the most heat that we could handle with this right here. The NHL9A AM4 from Noctua, which is the biggest cooler that we can fit in this case, with a dual slot graphics card, but the capabilities of this thing are freaking sick. So why don't we start by getting our CPU installed here. Everybody loves that CPU insertion point. Now we're going to go ahead and throw on our M.2 SSD. So there's just the one slot on this board right over here. You can see they actually had to build up this crazy like riser thing so they could put a cooler in there for the motherboard chipset. Freaking bananas. Honestly, this feels more like working on a laptop than a desktop. And this can go... Oh, we're gonna miss out on this RGB. No, it's just clearly not gonna fit. This build is beyond stupid already. It is going to be great, I will give you that. Now we've got some Vengeance LPX low profile memory. This is a 3200 C16 kit, so nothing special, but pretty close to unlocking our CPU's full potential there. And now we got to install our cooler. It's crazy. This motherboard's so small, they don't even have to put all the fan headers in different places because you'd be able to reach them from anywhere. So there's our CPU fan header. And then we're going to go ahead and cable manage it kind of like that, I guess. So we're going to put it on that way. Put our graphite thermal, oh lordy, oh, oops. Oh, look at that, I lied to you guys again. There's a second M.2 slot on this board, it's on the back. So do I even use the I/O shield? I guess not then. You do. That is one frickin' dense bit of computer performance. Although I have noticed a potential problem. We know that this cooler is as thick as this thing can handle, but our SSD actually peaks out above it a little bit. So we might run into a clearance issue here. So here's where it gets real, ladies and gentlemen. Wait, what? Normally you would take your motherboard standoffs and you put them into your backplate or motherboard tray and then you put the motherboard on there. Not today. Today, we take the motherboard, we put it straight against the backplate, and then we drive the tallest, a 30mm standoff, through the motherboard and then into the backplate. What is going on here? My world is upside down. You can see the backplate of the motherboard is like bowed now. So we're hoping that it still fits without bending it too much. So this is adorable. Next up is our PCI Express Riser, because obviously if that's our maximum clearance, we're not getting a graphics card sticking, you know, way out of the thing here. So the riser goes in here at the bottom and then immediately wraps around the back of the motherboard. And then, why is this so long? Wait a minute, what the hell? No, I know what the extra's for. Holy crap. It's got to go all the way around and then flip back over. That is the sketchiest thing I have seen today, and today has been a sketchy day already. So next up, we remove two screws here and here, and we pull out this like blocker piece, like a spacer piece, because if we didn't have an expansion slot, we could actually put it here, and then you could install the I/O shield normally, but we do. So our graphics card I/O needs to be over here. This case is so very different from anything that I have ever used before. There you go, it's in there, just empty space now. So now we're ready for one of the coolest party tricks of this thing. Remember I said that the spacers kind of affect where the motherboard is positioned in the case? So, you see this little tiny hook on the bottom of the motherboard tray here? That can actually go into either this one or this one, depending on where the motherboard goes. So, I guess we're going to go with the top one. So then the next thing is to put an M3 countersunk screw in here, which brings the whole package actually kind of together. And it mostly lines up. Like, I'm legit having a lot of fun right now. This is like the most unique computer build I have done in quite some time. And I mean unique in like an endearing way. So now we go ahead and, wait, we unscrew the riser. Why did we screw it in? Unscrew the riser, then connect the card to the riser, then slide it into the back. So we go ahead and we put this on here. Jake, I'm like mashing this PCI Express Riser. I feel bad. Okay, so then we slide it through the back. Like that. This is so ridiculous. I just can't even. It's actually in there surprisingly securely. It's amazing to think that these are all standard components. It's time for our power supply. And this is something a little special. Silverstone, if there's a weird thing that almost no one could possibly want, Silverstone probably makes it. So this is the SST-FX350G. This is a Flex ATX power supply, and it's about as thick as a single server U. It's got like a little tiny, what is that, 40 millimeter fan? 30 mil? 40 mil, yeah. It doesn't even have an 8-pin PCI Express connector. It just has a 6-pin. So we're going to need a 6-pin to 8-pin adapter, which is perfectly fine. So that needs to get, wait, what even? No, that's not wide enough. Oh my God, no, I see it. You just wrench this down here and put thumb screws in from the back. That is the worst power supply mount I have ever seen. You mash it down, and then these slots, they're not even holes. That's where you put the screws in. And then you just have to, I guess, wrench them tight enough that they don't shift. It's getting heavy considering the size. This is a lot of computer. What the crap? How is this supposed to work? So now it's time for cable management. So our 24-pin has to some friggin' how get over here. Oh, lordy. So that can go there. Yeah. Okay, so now our 8-pin connector goes up here. So we're just going to stash the extra GPU power cable over here. That's going to hurt our airflow a little, but I think that ship sailed a long time ago. And now it's time for the front shell installation. Okay, apparently you can mount drives to this. Now we don't need to because we're using M.2. Okay, we do want to put a fan or two in here though. Do you know which way is right side up? Okay. So, no, the fan's not going to fit in there. No way. I am calling it now. No fan is fitting in there. There's no way. I think we might get a fan in here. I'm like stressed out. So warm. Okay, Jake insists that we go for full points and put in the second cooling fan. I think we're gonna need it. I don't think I really have a choice. The amount of hardware that is packed in here. Like, yeah, the sides are perforated, sure, but jeez. I both love and hate this at the same time. It's like, I love it, but it makes me really uncomfortable. So theoretically, everything is lined up. I've got all my fan connectors installed. So now, in Velcase fashion, the way to fit it is to just mash it. Oh! Oh, that makes me so uncomfortable. How are you gonna do this? Anchor one side. So right now I'm jamming the fan power down alongside the fan so it'll stay out of the blades. This is dumb, and this is crazy. I can lock it in place here, but do the fan spin. That one's scraping. That one seems to be spinning. Damn it. I think I forgot to plug in my front panel. Power? Yeah. Okay, they're both spinning now, so I gotta keep these cables down, like on the downside of here. Okay. Okay.
just moments ago, we now know that
Let's see if the side panel's closed. You know what? I want to see it boot first. It's bad GBs to close up the side panel before you actually see it turn on. Okay. For me, the big thing is how quiet is it going to be, or rather, how loud. Alright, I'm going to put on some little feet here. Some assembly definitely required for this one. So cold from yesterday. Nice. Honestly, looking at this setup on the table, I'm like, where's the computer? It's more like an excessive, like this is smaller than most external GPU boxes. Alright, moment of truth time. That's a good sign. Lights are on. We've got fans fit. Hey! We've got a video output though. Alright, so everything looks good. We've got our 8-core processor, 16 gigs RAM. Now our RAM speed is still low, but it looks like it's applied the DOCP automatic overclocking to the 3200 megahertz profile. So let's try it. Let's give it a shot, see if it works alright. One thing that I want to get altered here is that fan noise. Wow. Okay, so both my CPU and chassis fan are set to silent, but one of those headers is actually an AIO pump control header, and they've got a bit of a different approach to control of that one. It'd be nice if you could just set it to fan mode. So we're just going to set it to the CPU as a source. Auto, let's see if it'll turn down a little bit. Right now this thing is pretty friggin' loud. Really? That's controlled? Yeah, these things are ripping. Okay, I've got ASUS's software fired up, and it looks like that AIO pump header has a 100% fan curve on it, 30 degrees. We'll go down to 30%, like 70, we'll ramp up to 55 or so. Okay, that's better. So it was that one fan that was killing us. To be clear, this is still not a silent system, but we need to have realistic expectations. At least this is not horrendous. Alright, let's go ahead and close it up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just not quite put these in all the way so that our side panel isn't too bowed. There's going to be a bit of a gap, but hey, if it's good enough for test kilometers, it's good enough for me. Is that noticeable, Andy? You can't tell? So let's tune the other fan curves and then do some testing here. I think I found a profile that kind of works. So I've got my two top fans, which are by far the most obnoxious, set to 25% until we hit a fairly critical temperature of about 60 degrees. So that's where we're loading the system. And then my Noctua CPU cooler, I've gone ahead and set a more aggressive curve on that because even when it's running at a fairly high RPM, it's pretty quiet and a non-obnoxious sound. Unfortunately, you guys can probably hear that even with my two fans at the top running very low or stopped, and my Noctua fan not being annoying, the system's still kind of whiny, and there's just nothing we can do about that because of the 40mm fan in the power supply. That's one of the challenges with these super small form factor cases, is that you're stuck with unconventional power supplies that just require weird tiny fans to cool them. Anyway, I'm pretty happy with this, so let's go ahead and hit it with a load, shall we? So let's start by firing up the classic BMW blender test, and what I'm looking for here is what kind of CPU turbo speeds we're observing, as well as what kind of noise thresholds do we reach here. So it's going to take a couple seconds for our system fans to kick in, because I configured them that way. But you can hear them ramping up now as our CPU approaches 75, 80 degrees. We're still turboing to just shy of 4 gigahertz though. 81 degrees. How's our turbo doing? 3.94 gigahertz, still looking pretty good. Okay, let's get AI Suite open and see just how hard we have to hit it with this CPU cooler in order to tame it. I mean, we still haven't turboed down yet. Oh, we've got a couple cores at 3.917. Oh wow, Windows Search, you are so damn useless. HW info. Oh, a web result. You know, I bet with a slightly better thermal compound instead of a thermal pad, that would probably break us through this threshold. Honestly, it's not bad though. We're still turboing to 3.9 plus, which is respectable, if not amazing, for a 3700X. So CPU performance is looking pretty good. I mean, we didn't hit maximum boost speeds, but we didn't fall down to base clocks either. And considering the form factor, even with the noise, I am pretty darn happy with this thing. But life is about to get a little bit more difficult because this is only a 65-watt CPU. So if it's kicking a bunch of heat out into the chassis, these fans have a pretty good chance of removing it. Our graphics card, that's over 150 watts. So they're going to be working a little harder, and less of the fan actually overlaps with the graphics card side of the enclosure. So this is going to be interesting. Now, let's move on to games. Okay, well I can definitely hear our power supply working harder now. Ooh, that fan is going, ladies and gentlemen. In a computer that you can hold one-handed, we have got Nitro Exodus running at over 60 frames per second, 2560 by 1440, like basically all high details. I mean, do you need a punchline? Like, kick him in the mouth. Good job. Take that, spiders. Although I figured out why we don't like the webs. These are very, very bad spiders. Well, there's definitely a lot more heat radiating off this thing. Let's go ahead and have a look at how our GPU is doing. You know, we maxed out at around 73 degrees. That is not freaking bad. And that's actually without even one of our top fans spinning. So one thing that I would tune about this configuration is that I would definitely add like a separate temp sensor of some sort and then tie my case fans into that instead of tying them into my CPU temps. Because while I was gaming, I was actually hitting max turbo, so well in excess of 4 gigahertz on my CPU, and it wasn't even running that hot because, you know, obviously most games only use anywhere from sort of 2 to 4-ish, maybe 6 threads. Freaking awesome. I really like this thing. I mean, not in an I use it sort of way. I'm more of a silence freak than a small form factor freak. But I think the merits of a system like this basically pitch themselves. You want to, you know, go to a friend's house, or let's say your parents are split up and you go between mom and dad's house or something like that. You want to bring your computer. Boom. I'm walking out of the frame, Andy. The Anker PowerPort Atom Slim Wall Charger features gallium nitride semiconductors that Anker used to take their signature technology and shrink it into a super compact design that fits in your pocket or hard to fit places like behind your bed or sofa. It delivers 30 watts over USB-C for high-speed charging and can charge your phone, your tablet, your Nintendo Switch, your headphones, and more. You can even charge your 12-inch MacBook with it. It's built with Anker's multi-protect safety system to protect your devices with current regulation and temperature control. So check it out at the link below, and if you need anything else, Anker's got you covered with 18-watt to 60-watt power strips at lmg.gg/Anker. We got all kinds of other stuff too. So thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, maybe check out our other recent build video where I upgraded my personal rig with the big brother to the 3700X, the 3900X 12-core with water. Why in the world would you ever want to build your own monitor? I mean, there are already a...
It seems that he's also trying to separate themselves from Senator Elizabeth Warren as she rises in the polls.
Elizabeth, I think, as you know, is told that she is a capitalist with her loans. I am the only one who's going to say that the ruling class of this country, the corporate elite, enough with your greed and with your corruption. We need real change in this country.
And Warren participated in the forum hosted by this same union in Michigan. Michigan last month. Senator Amy Klobuchar was at the Michigan forum as well.
Only Democratic Governor John Bel Edwards fell below 50% voter support in last night's jungle primary, in which candidates from all parties ran. He now will have to face Republican businessman Eddie Risponi in a November 16th runoff. President Trump counted the results after he held an election eve rally urging voters to reject Governor Edwards. Officials now investigating whether an electrical tower might have sparked one of the several wildfires burning across southern California. Officials say the largest one, the Saddle Ridge fire, is at least 41% contained after strong winds fueling those flames calmed down overnight. Meteorologist Adam Fox is tracking conditions there and across the country from the Fox News Weather Center. Adam. Hey there, John. Yeah, we do continue to see some good news across portions of Southern California as far as the winds go that have been really fueling these wildfires. These are our current wind gusts. When you get to that 5 to 10 mile an hour range, that is not a whole lot. So many fires that are there, they're not going to spread nearly as quickly. Now, most of this activity has been happening just north of Los Angeles. You get those winds around 10 miles an hour right now. That really isn't too bad. Now, it does continue to be bone dry across this region. Anywhere where you start to see these deeper brown colors, that is a relative humidity at 10% or lower. That is incredibly low. As we run through the next 24 hours, you begin to see this maybe peel back just a little bit. So humidity levels there getting closer to 40%. Now, that's still relatively dry, but for Southern California, it can typically be a whole lot drier. So that's some good news. We're going to continue to see maybe that improve a little bit. Now, the one thing they would love to see is a little bit of rain. Unfortunately, that is not the case. It is staying dry throughout the upcoming forecast. And really taking a look across the entire country, this is mostly a clear country. The one spot we're paying attention to, this was a blizzard just a couple of days ago. It continues to wind down a little bit, but you still see that circulation. It's grabbing cold air and funneling into the northern plains and the upper Midwest on the backside of this system. If you live in these areas, you know it has been on the chilly side. These are our current temperatures. All in all, it's a pretty nice Sunday. But notice just behind that system, currently sitting at only 43 degrees in Minneapolis. Otherwise, temperatures widely in the 60s and 50s across the country. But because of that center of circulation I just showed you, we're going to see some cool temperatures over the next couple of mornings, particularly in the Midwest and continuing back to the plains. Here that is, and you run through this future forecast, temperatures dropping down to freezing back across the plains and then stretching into the Midwest, even running up across the Mid-Atlantic. In some cases, those temperatures getting cooler by tomorrow morning. That continues where you warm up during the day, but overnight, again, temperatures falling back down there into the 30s or the 40s. A little bit of a tease of winter as this fairly cold system continues to march off towards the east. This is going to continue weekend, John. Winter isn't here to stay, but yeah, folks getting a little bit of a taste of it here on this October weekend. Adam Fox from the Fox Weather Center. Adam, thank you. Rescue missions are underway after a brutal typhoon hits Japan. That storm making landfall yesterday just south of Tokyo, killing at least 33 people. 19 others are still missing. The government saying more than 1,200 homes are flooded. The debate over school safety continues in the wake of mass shootings around the U.S. Districts in one state say the solution involves putting more guns in schools. Not everyone is on board.
You realize your dogs are a white snake song?
I do. If you ride, you get it. Geico Motorcycle. 50 minutes could save you 15% or more. We took their beer, their breads, our meats. We took their pretzel buns. We took their mustard and their cheese, but we weren't quite done. We took their name and tweaked it, and voila, Inktoberfest. These Germans tried the sandwiches, and we were all impressed. Us Germans tried these sandwiches, and we were all impressed. Where's your accents? I thought you guys were Germans. I'm from Atlanta. It's gotta be Germans in Atlanta. What? Arby's. We have the meat.
We believe in rock and roll. We believe in blasting it down the fairway, turning up the heat and the fun. At Del Webb, we believe in life well led, in your own beauty. community with sushi eaters, artists, thrill seekers, and you. We believe you'll like it here.
I decided to take the DNA test, and I was shocked. Right away, called my mom, called my sisters. I'm from Cameroon, Congo, and the Bantu people. I had Ivory Coast and Ghana, Togo. I was grateful. I just felt more connected to who I am.
New features, greater details, richer stories. Get your DNA kit today at Ancestry.com.
Dogs in America are experiencing a health crisis, and the cause may be one specific thing in their diet. It's in hundreds of dog foods, and you may have already noticed warning signs like digestive problems, itching, bad breath, and odors, but the long-term impact can be far worse. Fortunately, world-famous veterinarian Gary Richter has a new trick to improve your dog's food at home without switching brands. To learn how to help your dog live a long, healthy life, just visit PetFoodExposed.com. That's PetFoodExposed.com.
Ton of good, cheap monitors out there that would be as good or better than something that you build yourself. In fact, we showed off a few of them recently. But the answer lies not necessarily in using this puny little screen as your main display, but rather in giving it a new lease on life as a secondary or even like tertiary display. And the best part is, if you're anything like me and you hoard a bunch of old technology, you may already have a panel that's just waiting to be reclaimed from an old laptop or a tablet. So today, we're going to show you just how easy it is to make your own monitor from just a couple of cheap parts and a little bit of creativity. Speaking of creativity, how creative is this segue to our sponsor, Ridge Wallet? Ridge Wallet is a sleek way to keep wallet bulge down with their compact frame and RFID locking inner plates. Use offer code LINUS to save 10% and get free worldwide shipping today. So first up here is the star of the show, the panel. So ours here is probably something you've seen before. It's a super common 15.6-inch IPS panel with a resolution of 1920 by 1080. Next up is something you probably haven't seen before. This right here is an embedded Displayport controller, which is roughly analogous to the scalar module that you would find in a typical desktop monitor. So this here converts the HDMI signal that's coming out of your graphics card into a signal that the panel here can understand. So we purchased both our LCD and our EDP adapter from eBay. But guys, before you go out and buy a screen, take a look on Craigslist or at local electronics recyclers like FreeGeek and see if you can find something that doesn't need to be shipped. You might be able to score a deal and get some of that bonus karma for keeping a perfectly good screen from going to waste. Wherever you get your panel, once you've got it, the first thing you're going to want to do is establish what specific connector it uses. So the most common connector that you're going to find on 1080p panels like this one is a 30-pin EDP connector like the one I'm holding here. Now, if you do decide to harvest your LCD from a laptop or otherwise, make sure to verify that the connector on the back matches with the display adapter that you choose. Another word of warning, if you plan on using an old iPad or a MacBook, do a little extra research and make sure that you can even find an adapter for it. Apple has this tendency to use proprietary connectors for their displays. I know. I'm shocked. Moving on now then to the brains of the operation, our display adapter. Now, in addition to acting as a signal converter here, this provides our on-screen display, which hopefully will allow us to adjust things like screen brightness, contrast, and all that kind of good stuff. It's really easy to gloss over how important this little driver is, and even harder to believe that it only costs 20 bucks. Now that we've got all the components of our display figured out here, the next thing we need to do is be responsible and boot it up and make sure it works before we assemble the whole thing. Then we're going to put it in that frame over there and try and use it as an actual monitor. The golden end goes into the bottom of the monitor, just like that. Just be careful when you're putting these in. These are quite fragile connectors. They're not intended